know things have been insanely hectic. I have to tell you that you were sort of a rock star in my family. When I told my sister we were going to be speaking, she was like, "Oh, the representative who was on the House floor with her baby." So
Yeah,
I wish you didn't have to do that, but I'm glad that you did.
yeah.
Um,
I can't believe that that was just over a year ago, and I'm always taken aback by how much it resonate at that moment, how much it resonated with moms across the country and people that pull me aside and just felt seen in that moment from somebody in Congress as a mom.
Yeah, it really was because I think a lot of working mothers, we feel that we wish that they would support us as much
Yeah,
as they want us
exactly.
to have babies. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of an insane thing. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions because I know that you really uncovered some intense things that are going on inside these ICE facilities, and you were demanding answers from the Department of Homeland Security. Can you just tell us a little bit more about what you found that is going on inside these detention centers?
Yeah, there was an alarming report that came out in Colorado that these holding cells that are supposed to be for transitional, when you're taking somebody for just a temporary amount of time, up to 12 hours, before they go to next steps, that they're using these for extended period of time. And in one case, it was up to 39 days. Holding people as young as 1 year old to 91 years old. And so when you think about they're breaking their own rules, they're only supposed to go up to 3 days. Some of these places don't have beds. Well, none of them have beds. They're not supposed to be detention centers. Oftentimes, they don't have running water. They don't have toilets. So it's very concerning when you think about these holding cells being used for days and sometimes weeks on end. These are inhumane conditions, and so I think that ICE has lost the public trust, and we're trying to do what we can to provide oversight. I'm actually visiting the place that is in my district to see what these conditions look like.
And do you think that they will let you in?
So they've tried to fight this. They've tried to deny members of Congress their right to show up to these facilities and make sure that we can use our oversight in our positions. The court has ultimately ruled that we do have that authority. So while they've tried to stop that, they were denied that opportunity. So they do have to let me in. We do have a visit scheduled. It's really concerning as we continue to uncover these things because they're going well beyond their authority. People's constitutional rights are being violated. Laws continue to be not followed, and so we need to do what we can to hold them accountable.
So just to be clear, these facilities that you're talking about, these temporary facilities, are they basically just a room? Like there's not a bathroom, there's nothing in there that they should be there for more than a couple hours?
So yeah, and that's why it's so important that we actually go. We're not allowed to bring cameras,
Okay, I'm gonna ask.
but I am. When we're visiting, we're going to be looking for all of these things. What is it? What access do people have to drinking water, to toilets? Some of these facilities we know don't have any of these things. So what are they doing to accommodate people's needs? And also, they are breaking their own rules. In their own rules, where they extended it up to 3 days that they can hold people, they are violating that. So we're doing what we can to demand answers. I think, right now we're holding strong, making sure that we're not funding another dollar to this rogue agency,
Sure.
and they're holding other services hostage in the meantime. So that's what we're grappling with again this week in DC.
So what are you able to do once you go in there and you can really see what's going on? Is there any recourse? And why are they doing this? Like, why are they keeping people in these types of facilities? Why aren't they treating them humanely?
So we're submitting all of the questions that we have before we have a deadline of this week on Thursday of submitting our questions, and then we can have follow-up questions while we're there. But it's really trying to get at the heart of what we're all thinking is, why are they using this? How are they making sure that people are taken care of? And what accommodations are being made, how old are people who they're holding, what's the average stay, all of these things that we deserve answers.
Do you know how many children are in that facility right now?
So I don't know about currently, but we have the report from there was over, I think, 500 in the time period from ICE expansion under Trump, where over 500 people that they have gone through this facility. So we have more in-depth questions, and I'm happy to talk to you after we visit actually about what it was actually like. I mean, these are really supposed to be just offices, transitional, a transitional point before they figure out, what the next steps are.
A lot of people ask me all the time, why are the children there? Is it because they're like sweeping their parents up and they're not giving them a chance to find somebody to take care of them? Or are they trying to deport the children too? How are the children getting swept up in all of this?
This is what's absolutely heartbreaking and this is part of what we have in our questions is, are they detaining families? Do they keep them together? If I think about what this would be like, I have two 6-year-olds and a 1-year-old, and what parents are facing right now, where their kids are being detained and held behind bars, just terrible conditions. And then, there's one case, a woman in my district who is from Afghanistan. They waited until after she gave birth and to deport her, and she had a 2-month-old baby that was deported to Brazil. So when you think about showing up, not speaking the language, by the way, the United States, we should be taking in Afghanistan refugees and supporting them because of what we did in that country. But sending this mother and her 2-month-old to a country where they don't speak the language, there are no supports, no support system for them. I mean, it is, when I think about what it's going to take to reunite families, to bring justice for people who have no due process, to try even a person who is here for 30 years and had kids from my district who was deported. His kids are now, they don't have parents. They don't have parents in this country. Oftentimes they're going into foster care. So when we think about the damage that has been done for a generation of kids.
It's one thing to have all of this coming from the top, but I wonder how it will be. Will you be able to meet the people that are like running these facilities day to day, like the workers? Like, how are they able to do this every day, to treat people like this? Will you get a chance to talk to them?
So we will be meeting with staff. One of the people who we're meeting with has been there for over a decade at least. So there's people who were not part of this before the expansion, before the lawlessness. We can all agree that if somebody's here illegally and they're convicted of a violent crime, that they should be deported. That's already a deportable offense before Trump came into office. Narrowly targeted operations like that, we can all agree should exist, but that is not what's happening right now. So I'm sure that for people who have been there for a long time, it's really difficult to see what's happening, and I don't know how they're grappling with their job day to day on what's being asked of them.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know when you go in there to speak to them if, what's happened to them personally, because I'm sure, like you said, some of these people, they were dealing with violent criminals that really needed to be taken care of, and now all of a sudden they have children in there and the elderly and people
they
who
have
just don't belong there.
That they're supposed to meet. They're targeting people based on their skin color, and I'm sure that you hear from people in your community that it doesn't matter if you're a citizen, legal resident, or you're undocumented, you're scared to go out if you have brown skin because of being targeted. So, huge repercussions for individuals, their families, but also for our businesses, restaurants in our community that say people don't come out anymore. I mean, it's...
We were hit really hard here in Charlotte. They were here in October, and it was just devastating. There were so many people in my community that, they did have legal status, but they were afraid to go out because they don't want to get beat up. They don't want to get dragged out of their car just because they're brown. And it really was horrible here for a while.
Well, and we know that even people who are legal residents who have all the paperwork, they were still being detained and held, and sometimes even deported. So, they have these operations, they've completely lost the trust of the American people, and that's why we're fighting so hard right now to hold them accountable and make sure that we're not dedicating another dollar to fund their lawlessness, and that we can bring the reforms necessary. One story that I'll tell you, I met with some DAs from my community, from my district, and they talked about, ICE would always work with them if there was an illegal immigrant, an undocumented immigrant who was going through a court hearing for being accused of something, that they would always work with them before they were ever deported, so that there was a process in place so that they would have the opportunity for conviction if somebody was found guilty, or if somebody was guilty. So they had a case where somebody murdered an individual. ICE deported them overnight without any warning. They weren't working with the DA. And now this person is free. The family had no justice for their daughter who was killed. So when you talk about, this is another side of the story. They're just deporting.
So they're deporting people and not holding them accountable for the crimes that they've committed?
Exactly. So, so I heard from DAs about this issue, and they're worried about them coming back across the border, and then they wouldn't be able to prosecute them again. So then you would have an active criminal in our community and not be able to do anything. I also talked to police officers who are really worried about, and for the city attorneys, they're worried about the safety of their police officers, because ICE activity looks like criminal activity. They come up on these individuals who are masked, they're unidentifiable. They don't know if there's criminal activity or if these are ICE agents, and that there could be, a huge problem with an encounter. So there's real public safety issues on all levels right now.
Yeah, and I know that there's a lot of confusion when they were here, because just what you're saying, people are masked and they're getting beaten up and pulled out of their cars. And then the people in Charlotte wanted to call 911 to say, we need help. Somebody's trying to break into my home or into my car.
Yeah.
And then the police, they don't know what they're supposed to do, if they're supposed to come or not. And so what if it's not an ICE agent? It puts the community, like you said, at a real risk.
Exactly.
I definitely want to do everything that we can to, assist in your efforts. So I would love to talk to you after you go in there to find out exactly what you're seeing. What else can our community do to help you and to help shine a light on all of this?
I think that what we're trying to work through right now in my own congressional district, and I think we need to do this across communities, is what we need to do to prepare to organize so that we have a response if ICE is directed. We're working with a defensive organization at the local level about, if Donald Trump is going to send ICE agents into Denver, what we need to do to organize the business community, to have voices of people who can tell them not to do this, that they might actually be received. And this has been successful in other communities in stopping ICE activity. It's also what we do to coordinate on the ground and share information and support each other, and then sharing best practices. Something that some of our communities are doing is when there's ICE activity, they actually deploy their police officers because they have body cameras so that they can be witness to what's happening. So it brings another level of accountability.
That's great. And then before I let you go, I just have one question that I ask everyone. Can we please have universal health care? If the Democrats get power back in the House and the Senate, is that something that you would support and that you would push, some sort of universal health care?
Absolutely. Health care is a right. These are what we're seeing in the United States with continuing to chip away at investing back in our country, in our future, in making sure that people are healthy, have access to education. Imagine if the tax cuts that they gave to people like Elon Musk, if we actually took that and invested back, or what they're spending right now in another war in the Middle East, imagine if we invested back in leveling the playing field for regular people and making sure that we were addressing the affordability crisis and that everybody had access to the healthcare that they needed. So a huge priority for me, and I thank you for championing that, especially as we go into a complete dismantling of Medicaid starting at the end of this year. So we're just seeing the beginning of what they have done to our healthcare system.
It's just going to get worse. And lastly, do you think you're going to reach a deal? The Senate will reach a deal on paying TSA agents and stopping the chaos in our airports?
I mean, I went through the airport this morning. I told you I just got back to DC after traveling today, and to see the lines, the frustrated people who are traveling, they just want a functioning government. They want to be able to not worry about the day-to-day. They want us to do our basic functions, which is making sure that our government is running. Our TSA agents absolutely need to be paid. They're being forced to work without pay. They provide critical services, keeping us all safe. We have a bill that would ensure that they are not caught up in our disagreement about ICE and what needs to happen there with reforms, and that they're not being held hostage by Republicans. So I'm hopeful. The Senate seems to, I think they're feeling the pressure right now from the public with the long wait times, with the ramifications on people's day-to-day lives. So I hope we can do the right thing. But I've being here, this is my 4th year, and I'm always stunned every time I'm here at the dysfunction. So
I'm sure. Yeah. And I hope that.
Oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just saying that I hope with the holidays coming up, like we have Easter, we have spring break, and people are going to be traveling with like little kids and stuff. And, it would be, the airport is stressful enough traveling with a family. It would be nice if we had this all calmed down by then.
And I just think about, the Senate Republicans want a deal, and it's Donald Trump who's stopping this. So, and I think about this person. He's never had to worry about a paycheck. He's never had to wonder how he's going to pay his bills and keep a roof over his head. This is not a world that he is familiar with at all. So why should he care about regular people who are doing these jobs day in and day out? I mean, it is so frustrating to think about how out of touch this person is.
He's completely out of touch. I totally agree. Well, thank you so much, Congresswoman, for speaking with me. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to speaking to you again after you get to visit that awful ICE center. So
yes, we will give you updates then, and thanks for having me. And I love talking to other moms who care about making the world better.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.